Escape the crowds in Martin County, one of South Florida's best-kept secrets. Discover beautiful, uncrowded beaches, picturesque parks, scenic drives, enjoy stylish shopping and dining to match. From waterfront views to alfresco dining, art galleries to cozy cafes, delightful shops and charming attractions. Visit discovermartin.com for more information and to find out why this hidden gem is your next must-visit destination. Visit discovermartin.com. That's discovermartin.com. Paid for by Martin County Office of Tourism.
WQEE 99.1 FM The Key, home of Southern Sports and Talk. Noonan, Sharpsburg, Franklin.
It's now time for Heart to Heart Radio, presented by Connecting Hearts Network, connecting women to one another and resources. Now here's your host, Margie Conway.
Hi, this is Margie Conway of Creative Heart Studios, and this is the Connecting Hearts Network program. Today, I am being joined by some friends, Kendra and Louis Adan. Kendra was one of the first people I met in Noonan way back in 1992, so we have known each other a while. Yeah, so thank y'all for coming in today.
Thanks for having us.
And I asked them to come in because, not only are they just great people and you'll want to get to know them, but they are practicing homesteading. So they have the Lazy Ass Acres, and it is over on the western side of town. One time I went into their yard and a turkey chased me. So, I'm not a frequent visitor because I am a city girl and I ain't too sure about those animals.
He's mostly harmless.
Well, mostly is the part I'm not sure about. All right. From this city girl, I like my stuff to come from the grocery store, and I like to know it's been checked and processed before I eat it, although I understand that that's not necessarily good for me. So tell me what got you into homesteading.
Babe, you want to take this one?
Well, it started pre-COVID. I would say, the government wants to tell you to be prepared. They always saying preparedness. And
yep.
During COVID, they would say, make sure you have 3 days worth of food or a week's worth of food or whatever. So we've always tried to keep about 3 months worth of food. But then during COVID, you saw just craziness. Grocery stores run out of everything, from toilet paper, which was the most ridiculous thing that no one would have imagined, to canned goods, to meats. And so we started with our garden, and Kendra and her family did gardening. She grew up in the garden, and do more along the lines of growing our own meats, because she was doing the vegetables. I said, you know what, let's grow our own meat. So by doing our garden and growing our own meats, I feel like we're accountable for our appetite. If we want something, if we want chicken, I'll go buy 50 chicks, grow them out for 2 months, and now I've got a freezer full of chicken. That's what we did this morning. We processed 18 chickens this morning. Okay. And so this afternoon or tonight, they'll end up going to the freezer, and they'll last us about a year. So we also do rabbits and quail. We got chickens. We do the eggs. We got turkeys, eggs. The ducks, the eggs. We grew out a hog. We grew her out for about 13 months. That gave us finished weight just under 400 pounds of pork. So that'll last us a whole nother year. So if I want bacon, I'll buy a pig and grow my own bacon.
Okay, so that means you have to hold off a little while before you get that bacon, right?
Yeah, you plan ahead. But you go to the grocery store and then you realize there's no chicken, there's no ground beef, and then the craziness that's going on with these factories catching on fire, or just COVID slowed down the production because you had to have spacing in the production line, and it was just, the shortage is just crazy. And then they ended up having to get rid of or dispose of X amount of chickens and beef because they couldn't process them fast enough. So you have a shortage that was self-created.
Right.
So I don't like going to the grocery store because I look at the prices now and I'm like, this is insane.
You're right.
And last year we grew our first batch of chickens, from chicks to processing and it was textbook perfect. It was just the best experience. And so we just did another batch this year, and I did the cost analysis from the cost of the chicks to the cost of the feed, and it turned out to be cheaper growing it ourselves than buying it from the grocery store.
Right.
And we know what we're feeding the chickens and the hogs and the rabbits and the quail. We know the quality food that they get, and we treat them humanely. So some people disassociate themselves from their food. So they look at us like, how can you eat a backyard bird? It's like, you name that bird, you pet that bird. How can you, or the pig, or what have you? And how can you name it, pet it, and then
butcher it?
Well,
butcher it?
I have an experience like that because, I did grow up in the city. One year, my granddaddy brought home a turkey and pinned it up in the backyard.
Right.
And then on Thanksgiving, 3 weeks later, that turkey was on the kitchen table. And it's like nobody in the house would eat it except him and my uncle. The rest of us didn't touch it. And that was our pet bird. How did you kill our pet bird? But that was his intention the whole time.
That's with us too. That's what we have to explain to people is when we get these chicks or we, brought the piglets onto the farm, their purpose from day one was to feed us.
Yeah.
And they're like, how can you be so nice to them and whatever? And I'm like, I don't want to eat an animal that's been abused.
Oh, no.
I don't want anybody to ever mistreat an animal.
Oh, no.
And so my philosophy is they live their very best life until the day that we butcher them and they feed us. Yes, they get treats and they get treated well and they get treated extremely humanely. If I wanted to just get, chicken, commercial chickens or whatever, you can just go buy them where they live in cramped chicken houses and they're fed all kinds of antibiotics and chemicals. And
one of the saddest things I see is when I go down to Pine Mountain where they have that chicken factory down there, is if you get behind one of them trucks that has them just stacked on top of each other that way. And that, right there turns me off chicken for a while.
Yeah, our chickens that we processed today were in the yard. Their fence was moved, so they were always on fresh grass. They got fed quality food. They had fresh water every day. They were very well cared for until the minute that they were processed. Same thing with our pigs and our rabbits and any other animal that we eat. So I just think it's a better way for us. It's not for everybody, but for us, it's a better way for us to eat. And we're less dependent on grocery stores or anybody else for our food.
That's a good thing, especially like you were saying nowadays, because you don't know what you can count on, and inflation is going up, and we don't know what's in our food. Yeah. I mean, that's just the honest fact. I don't know what's in that food.
And we get most of our feed from a local mill. So, there was controversy about Tractor Supply and some of the chicken feed that they had. And so people were hating on Tractor Supply because the chicken feed that they were getting actually came from Purina. And Purina was cutting cost, and they removed two key elements in their chicken layer formula that was beneficial for the chickens. And so for like 6 months, people realizing that their chickens were not laying eggs. And that went back to the feed. So I wouldn't be hating on Tractor Supply because they have a contract with Purina.
Right.
So it wasn't their doing. It's Purina that changed formula, whether it was to cut corners or
cut cost
or whatever. And people finally caught on. But, if you said you got behind the chicken truck and the smell and the feathers flying out the back of the truck, and you're just like, oh, I don't want to eat chickens anymore. So you watch these documentaries on TV where they go to chicken processing plants or how they raise hogs in pens in the warehouse and they don't see sunlight, they don't exercise, whatever. You watch those documentaries and it's like, oh man, I'm not eating pork again.
Right.
I love bacon, but I'm not eating pork again, or I'm never eating chicken again.
Right.
And that lasts about a week or two until you get hungry.
You're right.
So you look at that angle, and then you come out to our homestead or watch our videos on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, where we're out there feeding treats to the chickens or the pigs, and see how we interact with them, and we're loving on them, we're rubbing them, giving them a bath or what have you. And it's like, okay, you're treating this animal humanely. It's like,
Right.
I'd rather see that than a pig or a chicken stuck in a cage in the dark, just being force-fed hormones and all this and antibiotics.
Right.
It's like, it's totally different.
Well, it's like I know I have paid a pretty penny before to get grass-fed beef and to get range-free chicken at some point. And but it never occurred to me to do it myself because, like I said, I'm city. I thought when I was marrying Ricky, I was marrying a big hunter because he had deer heads all in his house on his wall. And part of me was not fond of that, but the other part of me was like, okay, we'll have venison because I like venison. But then he didn't go hunting anymore because he said he only did that because he was bored before. So now he actually goes and watches the deer. He doesn't kill the deer.
Right.
So it's I'm used to my food coming from the grocery store, ignoring what's in it until I started getting all these inflammation problems and stuff and had to start trying to watch what I was eating. But so then I'd pay extra for somebody else to do it when I really didn't know what was in it either. Now I know my ex-in-laws had pigs, and this is just me. They would come on the holidays, they would put all the scraps in the bucket to take home and feed the pigs. And I had a fit because they were feeding the pigs the ham scraps.
Yeah, that's something we don't do.
Because that was, to me, that was like, that's cannibalism.
Yeah, that's something we try not to do. We don't feed pork to pigs and chickens to chicken.
Okay.
So other way around works because, you want your animals to get a source of protein. But yeah, we do stay away from that. But honestly speaking, raising pigs is easier than raising chickens. Mm-hmm. They're less maintenance.
Yeah.
So, and we probably have about 20, 25 egg layers right now. Like I said, we processed 18 meat birds. Probably have about 20 quail, probably about 7, 8 rabbit, turkey, 2, 3 ducks, and 2 pigs right now.
We have 7 turkeys right now.
7 turkeys.
Okay.
It changes almost daily.
Yeah.
Because I have a bad habit of bringing home more birds.
Okay. So instead of stray cats and dogs, Kendra brings home stray turkeys.
Well, we're not saying that she doesn't bring home stray cats and dogs. Every dog and cat we have are rescues. And the turkey was a rescue. So he's a mascot. Pilgrim's our mascot. And he has his own following on TikTok and Facebook too.
Does.
We're going to get those links because I want to post them so they can get more followers and see what's going on.
Yeah, Pilgrim will never be on the Thanksgiving table. He's my little pal. I love him.
Well, he won't fit in the oven. So.
That could be too. He's pretty big. The car I came out there in was not that many.
Yeah. He's probably 40 pounds.
Wow.
He's huge. I mean, he just eats and walks around and struts and makes noise. And I bought a female turkey twice now. We bought him a female, and he thinks he's a chicken, and he has zero interest in the turkey. And so I now have 6 young turkeys and 1 adult female, like adult hen. So I'm hoping one of those 6 babies turns out to be a tom. Because I would like to breed the turkeys, but Pilgrim, zero interest. He identifies as a chicken, and you cannot convince him otherwise.
Okay. So you said you had about 8 layers, and I know you mentioned duck and quail and chicken eggs.
We have about 20, 25 egg layers.
Chicken egg layers.
Egg layers, okay.
Yeah,
I thought I was saying 8.
That was just the turkeys.
So, like, how many eggs is that?
A day,
coming
a week.
Up? A week.
It's 12 to 15 eggs a day. So
wow.
Yeah, and we have a good following. We have good customers, regular customers. So we're keeping the eggs moving.
That was my next question.
Yeah, it's not too often I get to eat my own eggs. I have to sneak in the duck eggs.
Okay.
He's the duck eggs, and now we're getting turkey eggs, and we get quail eggs. But most of our chicken eggs sell pretty quickly, and I am a licensed egg handler, so I did go get licensed so that we can legally sell our chicken eggs.
You get licensed to egg handler?
You have to be licensed I say to legally. You're supposed to be licensed as an egg handler. You have to go through a training class.
I mean, where do you do that at?
At the Ag Center in Carrollton.
Okay.
So I went out and took a class one day and took a test. They taught us, how to grade the eggs and inspect the eggs and make sure they weren't, in the process, they weren't fertile, or which ones were fresh, and what to look for, and how to go about marketing, labeling, everything to make sure, cleaning the eggs, to make sure we're doing everything appropriately. So, because you don't want somebody to get sick off your eggs.
Right, no, you wouldn't.
And it's very educational, too.
Very.
Well, that's what I was going to say, you doing that. Maybe you need to teach me part of that, because a long time ago, my other City Girl story is I watched a science show where they opened the egg at the different stages of fertilization, and that turned me off of eggs. So I eat them in cakes and in things, but I don't eat an egg hardly ever,
Really?
because I don't even like to crack them.
Wow.
I mean, that traumatized me. I don't even like to crack them. And people keep telling me I have no worry about that in the store, but I don't think they know what they're talking about.
Here's the funny thing about eggs, and I found it hard to believe when we first got into the chickens. You don't have to wash your eggs. People think that they're so used to store-bought eggs, and your eggs have to be refrigerated, and this and that. But there's a coating on the eggs called bloom. So eggs are porous naturally, and this bloom it's invisible. You can't see it. But it coats the egg, and as long as you don't wash the bloom off the egg, that egg can sit on the counter for at least 30 days and not go bad. Now some other countries, they don't have the USDA standards we do, so they don't refrigerate their eggs. They pick them and put them on the counter, and they sit there,
till they eat them.
Yeah, and if you go to Google and you ask Google or Siri, I don't want to activate anybody's phone, how old are my eggs from the grocery store? They will tell you that those eggs in the grocery store can be 2 months old before you bring them home. Yeah. And we're getting eggs from our backyard every day. So our customers are getting eggs that are 2-3 days old
max.
At the max.
Yeah.
Well, I might could go for that if I was sure I wasn't going to crack it and find chicken parts in it.
You would not find chicken parts. So for chickens obviously they have to be fertilized.
Right. That's what Ricky keeps telling me.
Even after being fertilized, there have to be very specific conditions for a chick to start to grow. Oh. So it has to be, a specific temperature and humidity, and they have to be turned regularly. So there is a very specific condition that will cause an egg to develop into a chick. So even we have 3 roosters, so 99% chance that our eggs are fertile, but we're not putting them in the incubator at 100 degrees and sitting on your counter. Nothing's going to develop in them.
Okay,
washing them and putting them in the fridge, they're not going to turn into a chick. So your eggs are safe unless you put them in this very specific conditions to grow a baby chicken.
Well, I wouldn't be doing that. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, if you wash them, put them in the fridge, you are not going to get a baby. No chance of you opening your egg and finding chicken parts.
Okay, I might try it a little more often now. You might have sold me on that, because I do trust you. For now. I follow what you guys do on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. And one day I saw that you got a chance to harvest an emu.
We did.
Yeah, we
Tell
did.
me about the emu experience.
That was lyricism.
Okay, so we have a follower who's not too far from us, and I didn't know them, and they reached out to me, and they they do a lot of poultry. So they have ducks and quail and some guineas, geese, and a lot of chickens. They had some emus, goats, and they had a small homestead, but mostly poultry. And I think he does educational programs with the poultry. So he reached out to me and said that they had an emu that had a genetic problem with its legs, and they had taken it to a number of vets to try to get it corrected, and they could not correct the issue.
Right.
And he said, look, we follow you on your platform, and we know that you harvest a lot of your meat. And he said, we have an emu, it's not sick. It just has a genetic issue with its legs, and we can't put it down, but we don't want it to go to waste.
Okay.
So if y'all would like to harvest it, we'd love to give it to you. So I felt bad for the emu.
Right.
I said, well, I called him. I said, well, I'll come out there and look at it. I asked a few questions about the emu, the age and condition. Right. I said, well, I want to approach it at a rehabilitation angle and see what I can do. But once I got out there and realized it couldn't stand up, it was sick, and he said she's been losing a lot of weight and mobility, and they were having a hard time, him and his wife,
right,
dealing with it. So I said, okay, I'll take it and I'll harvest it.
They had even taken the emu to like the University of Auburn, like to the vet school.
Wow.
They took two different, either Auburn or Georgia State, but they'd gone, and they said we can try to do pins and this and that, but we can't guarantee. But at talking to him, he said the last 2 days she's really deteriorated.
Mm.
So so brought her home and ended up harvesting her, and that was the first time, and it was a learning experience. But found out now I've had ostrich in the past, and I wasn't even connecting the two.
Right.
But emu is a red meat. It's not white meat like chicken.
I saw that when you posted that. Yeah.
And it was a little trippy processing it. And I'd heard it and done some research. And people who have, what's that disease called?
Alpha gamma from Lyme disease, where they can't eat meat.
So if you get bit by the Texas star tick,
Lone Star
tick, you can get that. But it's hard to wrap your head around that emu is poultry, but it's a red meat. So it has different amino acids than the red meat. So people who have that allergy can actually eat emu, and they don't have the effect. Now, the emu looks like steak. It cooks like steak.
I saw you
pictures. It has like 2% fat, so it's very lean, but it's very moist. And so it comes out like a filet mignon. So
you would not know that you're not eating steak if
not
somebody
by the
didn't tell
looks
you.
of it, not by the taste of it. So I have a friend of mine. She's done a number of my shows, and she was telling me she had that allergy. So I brought her a couple of steaks. And I think a couple of days later, she sent me a message, and she said this was delicious. I had no side effects that I normally would have from eating red meat.
Good.
And she's like, when are you going to buy and grow me an emu? Maybe somewhere down the road.
Maybe down the road. We're not there yet.
But that was a unique experience. So we don't buy red meat from the store. Maybe every month or maybe once every 2 months if we want a steak. But we have deer meat. We have emu. We have chicken. We have pork. We have rabbit. We have a freezer full of food. So, the emu was definitely a learning experience and a unique experience. Yeah, I did thank him afterwards. But that definitely was something different. You don't see that every day or eat it every day.
Like I said, the city girl said, Louis and Kendra harvested an emu. How do you get an opportunity to harvest an emu?
Yeah, we got a lot of comments about, oh, that's emu.
Yeah. I wasn't home. Like, he had let me know what was going on. I was at work, so I wasn't there when. By the time I got home, he was pretty much done processing. But all I could think is because these people were so attached to this emu, and I'm like, did you talk to her before you dispatched her? Did you comfort her? Did you make sure she was comfortable and she was not scared?
Yeah.
And he was like, I really did, because I really felt bad for her.
Now, in case you don't know Kendra, she's talking about the emu. Did he do that to the emu, not the lady? Because for a minute there, I thought you were saying the lady.
No.
But she's talking about the compassion they had with the emu.
With the emu, sorry, I should have made that clear. Yeah, he was, I just felt so bad for them because they were so upset.
Right.
And I was like, this was their pet.
Right.
And if he took that responsibility of dispatching their pet for them and not letting the meat go to waste. So I said, I just really hope that, you were gentle with the emu before, and which he is with all of our animals. Anytime we dispatch them, it's as humanely as it can possibly be done.
Well, I'm not going to ask for details on processing because I don't know that we want to hear that, but how did you get experience processing so that you feel comfortable doing all this, that you're doing it right?
YouTube University.
That's where we do everything.
You can learn everything from YouTube. But before I do anything, not just processing, but getting into a different animal or homesteading, whatever, I do minimum 10 hours of research, because you can't just pick one person and follow them, because you only get one perspective.
Right.
And so they may not go into all the details, and then you watch somebody else say, oh, you know what, person A didn't cover this aspect about the emu, and so or pig or chicken or what have you. And so you watch different sources and you pick up in things that overlap and things that gap. It's like, okay, I see. And so then you jump into it, and then it's all hands on. So last year was the first time processing. Well, I don't know. Maybe the year before was first time with the quails. Easy, awesome meat. I did a posting on social media where I compared our homegrown quail, and I went to a grocery store and bought their frozen quail and did a side-by-side comparison, and it was disgusting what they were selling in the store. It just looked mutilated, and our quail was just plump and juicy and delicious. So when it comes to butchering, we do get attached to our animals, and so it takes a minute. It's very humbling to dispatch them. So you have to spend a moment and talk to the animal and thank it for what they've done, and spending time with them. And you hope they understand, but you make it as easy and as quickly as possible. And you say a prayer and hope everything goes by quickly. But once that animal is dispatched, it turns in, you become a butcher. You start processing. It's considered meat at that point. Right. So you just have to get past that point. You take a deep breath. You do it. It's like, okay, clear your mind. Now it's meat. We process it, cut it down to primals, cut it down to smaller sections, make ground beef, ground pork, salsa, whatever it is, and go from there. So you just have to change your mindset.
And like anything else, we look at it as it's a blessing that we have the opportunity to raise this animal, process this animal, and it's providing for us. So we look at it as, that's nourishment for us. And so it's not a hobby. It's not a pet that we just got sick of and we just decided, we thought this pig was cute and now it's not cute anymore, so we're just going to kill it or whatever.
Or take it to the pound or put it on marketplace, get rid of this or whatever.
Yeah, we don't do anything.
And all parts of the animals that we process get used. So some become treats to other animals. The rest of it goes into compost, and because we're big into composting and organic composting, we have what would you say, we have with the garden, we have a partnership is what the one I'm looking for, with a local organic market. So we get their scraps weekly, so that those greens go to the animals, and what the animals can't eat go into our compost pile. And so weekly we're turning wood chips and horse manure and sawdust and chicken feathers and the greens, and making our own organic compost. And I've done videos on how we're doing that. And also we do vermicomposting with worms, composting worms. And so we have the chicken manure, the quail manure, the rabbit manure. So it's we try to be as organic as possible.
Yep, and it's a big cycle. So the animals produce the waste.
Right.
The waste produces the compost. We essentially grow our own soil.
Right.
Because with the compost, then the compost goes into the garden. The garden produces the food, then in turn feeds us, and that we also feed back to the animals.
Right.
And so it's just as much of a self-sustaining process as we can get it.
Well, any vegan people are going to be mad at me, but I believe, that's the way God set it on this earth. He provided the animals and the plants of the earth for us and for nourishment. And, he says that. And so, that's the best way to do it, because I know I'll go buy organic, but again, we don't really know what it is.
Well, the market is greenwashing a lot of stuff.
Yes.
They'll say it's organic, but
Right.
it'll be in quotes or they'll have small asterisk
Right.
next to it. So they're greenwashing a lot of stuff that just as marketing it's organic.
But it's not
But you really have to question
certified.
that.
And like somebody asked me about our organic food, and they're like, "Oh, do you sell it as organic or whatever?" We haven't really gotten into selling food. We just grow it
Right.
mostly for ourselves, but we're not certified organic. And I'm not prepared to have the USDA come in and inspect everything.
Right.
But we know that what we're doing is we're being good stewards of the land.
That's it.
And we're being good stewards of the animals, and we're doing things healthy, and we're doing things appropriately, and like Lou said, just being accountable for our own appetites and using the gifts and the knowledge that God has given us. Yeah. So,
and there's a difference in my vocabulary between a homestead and a farm.
Right.
My definition of a homestead is growing your food for your family, where a farm, you're growing produce and animals to sell commercially. So we're more along the lines of a homestead.
Right.
So some people look at it as volume or acreage, but I look at it as the marketing of it and what you do with the product. So most of it is for us.
Right.
So, and getting into homesteading, you don't have to go buy pigs or chickens. You can start. We started small. I think we started with 4 chickens, and you learn chicken math is a real thing. 4 chickens turn into 8 to 12 to 20 to 100 real quick.
I know some people who learned that math the hard way.
I saw a quote one time, and it was like, I only wanted 4 chickens, but if God wanted me to have 10, then 40 it is.
Right, I saw that too.
And that's kind of how chicken math works, because they're just so cute when they're little. And also, it's a thing like, oh, this one lays green eggs, this one lays blue eggs, this one lays brown eggs, and you just want the variety of it for no other reason than you just do, but it's all food.
Well, we've all got to admit, lately there has been a trend of people buying chickens to get layers so that they didn't have to pay the prices for the eggs or to have them for pets. A good percentage of them find out it's a lot more work than they thought it was going to be.
You're not going to save money on eggs by raising chickens.
Right. And I know people who've done that.
Especially in the beginning, but I mean, you get better quality. You know what you're getting.
Definitely fresher.
Definitely fresher. But to say, if egg prices keep getting so high, I'm just going to have to go buy chickens. Not necessarily a good thing. Under certain circumstances, some people completely free range their birds completely or pasture fed. And if you have the space and you can do that, then that's good. But for us, we feed high quality feed to our animals.
And we do let them forage, but we do have predators.
Yes.
We do have hawks and owls and coyotes
and fox.
And fox. And so we're limited on how far they can free range.
Right.
So we're expanding that, and we're always it's always a cycle. We're always expanding and improving on our homestead.
And expanding our garden, that's a big thing
so
right now.
We're only talking about meat, but there's definitely garden. So when you want to jump into homesteading, it doesn't have to be meat. You can start with a simple garden. I think the 2 simplest things to grow or tomatoes and peppers.
Yep.
I did that the first year Ricky and I got married. There was a small area out back, and I grew tomatoes and peppers and 2 or 3 things. I don't remember what. And I was so proud of myself for doing it because I'd never done it before. And then the year later, when it was time to do it again, I was like, no, been there, done that, and it's too much work.
But there's pride you take.
Yeah, very much. And you, like, my garden is like, I feel like my garden is like the animals are kind of to him, where I love my garden. I'm very attached and protective of my garden, and that's kind of the animals. We both do both, but the animals are more his thing, and the garden is more mine. And I know not everybody understands that. Like, my garden is like my church.
Right.
That's where I feel the most spiritually grounded, and I feel at peace, and I can talk to God as much as I want to. I can talk to myself. I can talk to my corn.
Right.
And it's so serene to me to be out there. And I get very frustrated, like something's been digging up my plants, pulling them up by the roots, and that's really annoying. But I love the fact that we have food in our freezer that we grew with our own hands.
Right.
And it literally started with a couple of peppers, a couple of tomatoes, and I think the first year I was like, oh, I'm just going to grow yellow squash. I grew so much squash the first year, people were like, please don't bring me any more squash. I haven't eaten the last one you brought. But now we have, I think, 6 varieties of tomatoes, maybe a dozen different types of peppers, corn, squash, zucchini, 2 types of cucumbers, 2 types of beans, potato. We grow garlic and onions year round.
Okay.
Potatoes. What else we got growing out there right now? Okra, asparagus. So, and all of this, we grow enough that we can freeze, we can put up, and we can feed ourselves all year off our summer garden.
That's pretty good.
And you take pride of what you grow and what you harvest, because you go to the grocery store, you buy a can of corn, you bring it home, you buy a T-bone, you bring it home, you open up that can of corn, that's it, it's out of your mind.
Right.
But if you open up your freezer and bring out some corn on the cob that you grew, you sit there and look at it, it's like, man, this is beautiful corn. I grew this.
Right.
Yeah.
And same thing with say you grew your own pork and you pull some pork chops out and then you grill them. It's like, man, this is delicious, pork chops. Or fried chicken. It's like, this tastes so fresh. Or your eggs. Oh, these eggs are so fresh. You take pride and you give thought about how long it took you to grow that or harvest it. And you actually think about and you appreciate the food more than if you just, like I said, open up a can of green beans or corn from the grocery store. Because once you open it, put it in a bowl, throw it in the microwave, thought process is gone. You're just going to eat it and be done. You don't give much thought to it.
No, you don't. You're right. I'm not a foodie person. I don't like to cook. I don't like to do anything. Ricky's lucky he eats. So it's all right. He's not starving, even though he's lost a lot of weight lately. That's the medicine he's on. But it's I don't put much thought into any of that food that we have there, because I
mean that's the norm for most people. I grew up with my grandparents were farmers when they were young. They were actually sharecroppers growing up. Their families were. Then my granddad moved the family to Atlanta and had to get a job. And when they bought their little property in Forest Park, they probably have a quarter acre, I think their yard is, and they turned every inch they possibly could into garden. And they still grew all of their own produce. They didn't have meat or animals that they raised anymore. So I grew up eating fresh food and helping to grow and tend to and snap peas and shuck corn and all that. So when we got a house, I was like, oh, now I can grow some vegetables myself. A couple of tomato or pepper plants to start.
Well, we lived on the edge of downtown, and my grandmother had a garden every year, and most of the time we lived with her. And I don't remember. I know she had peppers and tomatoes and stuff. I don't really remember what she had because I wasn't allowed to help her in the garden because my mama said that was work and I wasn't working. I was a child. But we had apple tree and pear tree and fig bushes, and I would climb trees and sit up on top of the shed and eat pears, and get behind the fig tree and eat fig bush and eat figs and things like that. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. But it's not. That's it. We didn't have to do anything else like that anywhere in our family.
But you have those memories,
right? I do.
Of picking an apple, picking a fruit off that tree.
Yeah.
Do you think back and think about opening up a can of corn you bought from the store?
Oh, no.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a memory of the fresh fruit.
You're right.
Fresh fruit.
Yeah.
So, and it's good to get family and the younger generation doing it. We have some friends. You meet so many other people, homesteaders that are
like-minded
doing it,
people, yeah.
And you share knowledge and share experience, and you learn off of each other. So it's a great network. So you're not out there by yourself,
right?
And it's very interesting, and we love it. And like I said, you don't have to jump in with both feet, and like I said, think you have to buy cattle to have a farm. You can start simply by a garden.
But I'll tell you too, once you start it, and I can't speak for everybody, but once you start it, you want to keep going. Like for us, we started with our little small garden, and then our 4 little chickens, and then we've added more animals. And it's so funny because we'll say, we'd like to get ducks. No, we're not getting ducks. Ducks are messy. Ducks are this. And then I come home and there's ducks. And then I'm like, I really want turkey. No, we're not going to get turkey. And then I'm like, oh, I'm running down to Luthersville to buy some turkey. But our next thing is, we grow figs and blueberries and strawberries and muscadines. Mm-hmm. But next year we will, hopefully, we're right now cultivating the land and getting everything ready to start a kind of a mini orchard.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So apple trees and peach trees are what we're looking at first.
How much land do you have back there that you're doing this on?
We have 5 acres, just a tad over 5 acres. And most of it was wooded, but as we've expanded our processes and what we want to produce, we meaning Louis, has cleared a good portion of our land. So and like right now we have where the chickens and everything have been, that soil is super rich.
Right.
So we're moving all of that, and then that'll be a good spot to put in some fruit trees, and start growing some fruit too, just to expand and do a little more.
And see, we have 5 acres and we don't grow anything except bush and underbrush and whatever else throws up in there.
If we go back and look at Google Earth at our property, say 5-7 years ago, you'd think the Unabomber lived there, because all you see is a rooftop and just surrounded by trees. Yeah. But slowly we've been cutting down. We've taken down at least 300 trees, mostly pine, and just expanding, trying to get more sunshine on the ground so we can grow more crop and have more paddocks for the animals to rotational grazing. So we're slowly getting there.
And we're doing all that with 5 acres. So people who think you've got to have a ton of land to homestead, you don't. You just have to be intentional about the way that you plan out your homestead. But you can do, I've seen people like having a 1 acre homestead.
Or half acre, and
have chickens and goats, and they make it work. You just have to plan well and be intentional about what you're doing and not let yourself get overboard with it.
Well, anybody ever says anything about animals to me, I say I got a Ricky and that's enough. I don't want to take care of anything else. But I know that you run a daycare center, so that is a full-time job.
It is.
And you're there early until late. Louis, I really don't know what you do.
I drive a truck for a national food company, number 1 food company
I think
in the United States, and I've been with them 29 years. So I'm doing 55, 60 hours a week doing that, and then coming home and then taking care of the animals and expanding, working on the property and trying to build shelters and stuff. So it's another full-time job.
Right.
But you pace yourself and just do what you can, and just grow at your own pace. And like Ken was saying, you don't have to have 5 acres, 10 acres, 40 acres. there's a lot of YouTubers that we follow, and like she said, they'll have a 1 acre lot or 1.5 acre lot or just a half acre lot. You don't have to grow animals to be a homesteader. You can grow your own vegetables,
right.
and it's very rewarding doing that.
People do raised bed gardens, so
right.
They're just gardening in small spaces, vertical gardening to maximize their space. And if you have 3 chickens, that's enough to feed your family of 4. You don't have to have a ton of animals and to produce your own food and raise your own produce or whatever. And you just do what you can and do what you're comfortable with, and you have to love it. And we work our tails off.
Yeah, you do.
But we love it.
Well, that's important.
It's so rewarding for us, and so it's kind of our retirement plan, I guess. It's like, we're not going to be those people who retire and go to, sit on the beach somewhere. It's like, oh, we have time now. Let's make a bigger garden.
Yeah. And becoming more sustainable is a good goal for everybody, for all of us, because like you said, with the times that we're in, we may be past the pandemic, but there's still all these other things happening, and we all know that everything around the world is shaky, and so you never know what inflation's doing, you never know what anybody's doing anywhere, so we may end up back like we were before without noticing it. So being able to prepare ahead of time is important. I mean, at our house, we don't think about the garden and the animals. We think about the guns and the ammo.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, the government tells you they're really pushing preparedness. Be prepared, right. Be prepared. There was, a few years ago, I guess before COVID, there was a term called preppers, and everybody gave preppers a bad name.
Right.
But what were they doing? They were storing the food.
Right.
Not just guns and ammos, but they were storing food.
Right.
Now the government is telling you to store food.
Yeah.
And so growing your own food, you're taking the burden off of someone else doing it for you, and the insecurity, whether you're going to get canned goods or meat at the grocery store. And you go to the grocery store and you see the prices. You used to be able to buy 4 ears of corn for $1. Not anymore. Yeah. It's like, you know what, we'll just grow our own corn and not depend on somebody else growing it and see if it actually makes it to our market.
Right.
And so you taking that off of everyone else and just being more self-reliant, self-sufficient.
And the people I work with, a lot of the ladies that I work with, they're kind of like you. They're city. They're kind of, I like living in town. I like living close to where I've got 10 restaurants to choose from, and I want to run to Publix and buy my steaks or whatever, and I don't want to have to worry about growing my own food. And they'll always tease me and go, oh yeah, but if anything ever happens, we know where to come. And I'm like, this is the thing.
Right.
I'm like, I will welcome you at my house, and I will feed you, and I will take care of you, but you gonna work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did come up with this little preparedness plan back when things was getting really rough. And Heather lives in Pine Mountain at a resort, so we had that thing fenced in, and we already had who was going to live there. We were making sure it was people that was growing food and being able to handle those things and all these different aspects.
It's like, if you can't grow, if you're not good at animals and you're not good at food, well, you can clean, or you can cook, or it's like, but it's not going to be, where there's no food, there's a food shortage, can I just come sleep on your sofa? Like, no, you will come and you'll get your hands dirty, because we get our hands dirty.
Yeah.
And we work for everything that we have, whether it's our jobs where we're working for our money, or our homestead where we're working to take care of ourselves and provide for ourselves. And you have to be willing and prepared to put in the work.
That's true, and
it is
work.
It is work, and I think a lot of people got into it because during COVID, everybody had time.
Right.
So a lot of people will say, "Oh, I've always wanted chickens, so now I have time. Let me get into chickens." And then when they went back to work, it's like, "Oh, well, now I don't want these chickens anymore because I don't have time to fool with them."
Right.
So a lot of people it was a trend. The homesteading, the chickens, it was trendy for a minute because everybody had nothing but time on their hands.
Right.
So. And that's fine if that's what you want to do, as long as you humanely rehome your animals or whatever. That was fine. But for people like us, it was an opportunity to have more time to see what else we could do. see how much more we could do for ourselves.
That's a good way to look at it, and important processes to follow through with.
Yes.
All right, I watch some of what you do on social media. So what social media do you post it on, and what got you doing that?
Social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
And we have a website.
And we have our website. And so it was just on my personal account, it's just humor. I make fun of myself. People like putting dirty laundry and drama on social media, and a lot of people leave social media because they don't want to deal with the drama.
Right.
Social media is like a newspaper. You can read what you want out of the newspaper and take it with a grain of salt. But I just share what we do lightheartedly, and just our experiences. We're not experts at what we're doing, but I'll just show us feeding the animals or talk to the animals, and just something funny that happens, and we get a lot of comments and a lot of questions. I had posted this morning. I had posted where we had processed those chickens, and before I left the house, we had over 200 comments. And I'm trying to catch up. People asking questions about what type of birds, what type of equipment, and all this. And it's a community. You really enjoy communicating, and you make good network and good friendships with a lot of these people.
We have met a lot of super nice, like-minded people from all over, some close that we actually have personal relationships with, some just through social media, but we have met a lot of people, and it's great because like when we were talking about wanting to start raising pigs, so we knew somebody who raised pigs, but they at that point had not, I don't still think they've butchered pigs, they just decided not to. But then we found somebody else. We found another homesteader. Right. And so Lewis could say, hey, talk me through. It was actually who we got our quail from to start with. And it was just kind of talk me through, the process of what a butcher and what equipment do I need, how to do it.
Right.
And we can reach out to other people for advice. And then once we do it, then other people are reaching out to us and for advice.
That's a good chain, yeah.
And so we can share a lot of information. And no matter what you do, you never know it all.
Right.
And so there's always an educational aspect for us to learn and for us to educate other people. So we really enjoy that aspect of the social media part of it.
Right.
Answering questions. And if we don't know, we probably know somebody who does. Okay. So we can put people in touch with other people.
Well, that's pretty cool. We're going to post your links when we start putting this out on the podcast and everything. But I've learned a lot today.
Well, here's the thing, another thing about homesteading. It's very easy to start. Yeah. You can literally, and we've done this, go buy potatoes at the grocery store, and you can actually grow potatoes from store-bought potatoes. Yeah. We've done the same thing with garlic. You can do it with celery. What other plants have we done it from? I think we have onions that we've grown, that same green onions, for like 5-6 years.
About 5 years.
I did it with the kids we taught over the years for fun. You know, that's I did it with them for fun. I never did it to try to sustain anything.
Yeah.
But there's a few things I can think of. I've been thinking I wanted to do gardening and get back into it. So
you can actually buy dry beans off the shelf.
Yeah.
And grow those.
And grow beans right from just a dollar bag of dry beans.
So don't think you have to buy these designer organic heirloom plants or seeds just to get your feet wet.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to get into.
You don't have to go to a big box store and buy a $6 plant start to get something started. You can buy dry beans. Eat a tomato from the store, save your seeds, cucumbers.
Tomatoes are crazy. Tomatoes will go rogue because we've grown tomatoes and thrown the scraps to the chickens, and they turn the soil, and we'll move them to a different section. And before we know, we have tomatoes growing where the chickens were just from the seeds that they forgotten about.
They just volunteered, and like we had a decent crop last year of cherry tomatoes that volunteered in the old chicken yard.
Wow.
And they just grew up the fence, and I was like, you know what, we're just going to let it be. And so it's not that hard. And I'm one, if you got the will to live and to grow, I'm just going to leave you alone and let you grow unless I just have to move you.
Yeah.
I have something growing at the end of my corn right now. I don't even know what it is. It's got a bloom on it now, so hopefully soon. I think it's probably a cantaloupe, but it's nowhere near where my cantaloupe were last year. So, but it grew up in the red dirt mud at the end of the garden, not even in the garden bed. And I was like, you know what? That little plant's got the will to live, so we're going to protect it.
And you can have a tomato plant growing in the crack of your driveway. That's producing fruit.
Right, yeah. I kind of remember that, from Grandma. She also had flower rose bushes and all that stuff too. But she loved to garden in that little area. And a lot of people I know find that gardening, calms them, like you said. You can do that. And so it's good to be so connected to what you're doing that it's feeding you both in your soul and in your body. So you're doing good with that.
But it's a total system because we work with pollinators. We put plants and flowers out there to bring the pollinators in. So, and she grows, I don't say grow, she... your butterflies.
Oh yeah, because we order the caterpillars and then with the kids and let them release the butterflies. Yeah. And I've just started doing it at the house with butterflies and praying mantises.
Oh wow.
So the praying mantises, I'll release the babies into the garden and then they eat the aphids and then something eats them, and it's just a whole circle of life thing that's happening.
Okay. Well, I know down the road from where you live is an older gentleman that goes to church with us, and he has an extensive garden area and honey and bees. He now has beehives and all that, and he does it. Matter of fact, I have some of his jams and jellies and pickled okra over there on the shelf, but I was always the one that I told the people at church that garden, if you just bring me some of your fresh stuff, I will pay you for it. So I might send Ricky your way and say, here, let's trade something. It has been very interesting to talk. I have learned a lot. And I might even try to eat the eggs now. We'll see what happens with that.
We'll bring you some fresh ones.
I will try it. I'm trying all kinds of stuff lately, so I will try it. But I want to thank you for coming in because it has been an education for me, and I know it will be for others.
Well, we're honored.
Definitely.
We're going to share your links, as we go through this so people can find you. Hopefully there'll be more that has questions for you because you are doing a good job explaining it to me. And like I said, I'm a city girl. I don't care how long I've been down here.
Always happy to share knowledge and information with any.
You're a teacher at heart anyway.
I am for sure a teacher at
heart.
You
are a teacher at heart anyway.
33 years working with kids in early education, so definitely a teacher at heart.
Yeah, you are.
And
one of the good ones.
And we do. We have had families bring their kids out there, and so they can get hands-on petting the chickens and feeding the pigs and the rabbits.
First-hand experiences with the animals.
And kids really need to get outside, get more involved,
You're
get
right.
their hands dirty, and get off their electronic devices. And so, anytime we've had people just reach out and say, "Oh, I think our mail lady, one of our delivery people, she asked if she could bring her son out there. It's like, we see your turkey, and we can hear all these critters back there." Like, sure, just give us a call and come on out.
Reach out, and we'll be happy to let the kids come and, just kind of get firsthand knowledge of what it's like.
Growing up the way I did, the only time in my life until I was 20, 30 something that I saw cows was when they took us on a field trip to the Mayfield Dairy from a school.
I did that
and
too.
You went to the dairy and you saw the cows and they gave you a taste of fresh milk and that was it.
We milked Rosebud.
Milk Rosebud.
And it was my mom and dad moved down to LaGrange, which at the time was country, and my grandma drove me down there and looked where they were living at that had chickens in the yard and said, no, she's not staying here, and took me back to Atlanta while they stayed in LaGrange. So it's I come back kind of naturally.
But you remember that experience going to the farm?
I do. I do.
So we have kids come out and we let them look for their.
To talk to y'all, and I can't wait to do it again because I'm sure we're going to be following this up.
Well, I hope so. We would love to come back and share more information and just kind of update people on what's new on the homestead.
And whatever we can share with everyone in the community, in the network.
Well, you might not know what you're asking for, but all right. All right. Thank you for listening today. You can find us at 3 Bullsboro Drive in the brick house on the Hillcrest property. And we have all kinds of events and activities coming up this summer. So check our website out and our social media, and we will talk to you next time.
You have been tuned in to Heart to Heart Radio, presented by Connecting Hearts Network, connecting women to resources and one another. Located at 3 Bullsboro Drive here in Noonan. Tune in next week for another episode of Heart to Heart Radio with Margie Conway.
WQEE.
Escape the crowds in Martin County, one of South Florida's best-kept secrets. Discover beautiful, uncrowded beaches, picturesque parks, scenic drives, enjoy stylish shopping and dining to match. From waterfront views to alfresco dining, art galleries to cozy cafes, delightful shops and charming attractions. Visit discovermartin.com for more information and to find out why this hidden gem is your next must-visit destination. Visit discovermartin.com. That's discovermartin.com. Paid for by Martin County Office of Tourism.
Love your sleep all summer with 20% off mattresses, pillows, and sheets during Casper's Memorial Day sale. Kick summer night sweats out of bed with our new Snow Mattresses Snow technology that helps you sleep 5 degrees cooler all night. Shop our Memorial Day sale today at Casper.com or a sleep shop near you. Exclusions apply. See Casper.com/promo.